G'day everyone. Who have we got on? We have Fish on, DJ, Harry's in there, Rebecca's in there, Bo, Joel, Harrison. Don't forget to put your postcodes in to know that I am still going live. We are obviously having some troubles. I think it might be me intro music. They keep dropping my feed, but that doesn't really matter. We have a guest host on tonight, which is actually Kevin, who comes second in the Craft Brand Ambassadors program last year, and he's having some troubles logging back in at the moment. He was called in at the last minute, but we do have Matty Langford on. He's in the green room waiting for us. There we go. Postcodes coming in. G'day, everybody. Yes, big week. Obviously, we were all at Bluerock, and I was fortunately up the back of the dam having a bit of a fish and out of phone range, having a good time, and was oblivious to what was happening out in the real world. Got into range, had about half a dozen messages, and one of them was from my guest tonight telling us that we're all going home. I thought he was joking and didn't believe him until I turned on the radio and had a bit of a look, and then it was a scramble to get them home or get them out of the state of Victoria by midnight. So we dashed home and did that. But to Morgo and Nicole, thanks for trying to run the event. I really do hope that Wednesday Lieutenant Dan does let us out again, and the Gippsland Brim gets to go ahead, because it'll be good for Morgo to be able to at least run one event. It's very much appreciated that they tried to get the event done and went through with it. It's just a point of, shit happens. So anyway, I'm going to bring Kev on here, and we're going to have a quick chat before we bring Matty on. As soon as Kev's got his camera working, we'll see if this works. Are you there, Kev? Doesn't look like it. He's still trying to log in, so that's all good. We'll just let him go. I'm going to bring, here we go. We'll try again. There you go. G'day, Kev. Yeah, good. You're down in Melbourne in the lockdown at the moment. Obviously, your internet reception there is pretty weak. You're a bit patchy.
Yeah, dropping in and out a bit. Same with you.
Yeah, no, that's all right. We'll push through. I've got a little bit of a video here. I'll give you a call off air. I've got to play a video to start with, and we'll keep working with the technical difficulties behind it. I love all this stuff that goes wrong on the night. We pre-plan, we test, and everything else. But I've got a little video here of my rundown on Bluerock, and then we'll bring Langers in, and we will talk to Langers about his rundown on Bluerock. So I'll move you into the green room. I'll give you a call off air in a second, Kev. All right, and rightio. So this is a little video I recorded earlier in the week. I'm going to put this up and play it just to work on these technical difficulties that we're having. But this is my rundown on Bluerock with the lures that I was using. So I'll bring that up. G'day everyone, just thought I'd give you a rundown of Bluerock Dam. So obviously we all know that the ABT Bluerock was called off, and unfortunately I think it was really going to fire this year, talking to a lot of people at Boat Ram, and obviously didn't get a lot of footage because we thought we were going to go into game day and get a lot of footage. So that's what happened, but everyone at the boat ramp said they caught fish, and they caught some really good fish. I know we did. Benny worked out a pattern late before we got called off, and it was quite successful, and I'll run you through some hints and tips for Bluerock Dam. So to start with, I pre-fished a couple of weeks ago, and the best way to catch fish was with a dressed jackal. So I will do some screenshots of these, but a dressed jackal is ultimately a jackal, TN50 or 60, with a spinnerbait blade on it. So I'll put a photo of them up individually just so you can see how that is. The good old football jig. So those there. Obviously, you go searching for bigger fish with the football jig. I'll put photos of them up individually. The humble old jaw knocker or chatterbait in the natural colours worked really, really well. But the pattern that we found to successfully catch bigger fish was gulping, and obviously coming into the into this time of year, gulping will be a very successful technique going forward. But we weren't just gulping trees or open water, we were actually sounding around looking for fish. And when you've seen 2 or 3 scattered fish out by themselves, you're able to drop down and watch that fish follow that lure down, stop the lure, and pretty much catch that fish. So that happened quite regularly. We're using a small black jig head, 1/6 of an ounce, with a Berkeley gulp, 3-inch or 8 centimetre minnow grubs, and cut them down a little bit and trim the tails. But so with the Berkeley gulps, we'd like to just trim the tails and thin those tails out a little bit. So just with the pair of scissors, you just thin the tail out, just follow the curl around. This makes it wiggle a little bit more further. And I like to, just behind where you would imagine the gill plate would be on the plastic, just trim that plastic off. So that's what you end up with, a smaller tail, wriggly tail, with your jig head. And then obviously when you feed it onto your jig head, push it up, you've got nice long wiggly tail, plenty of hook out for the fish to catch. And that's how I rig. Yeah, look, I can tell you that it was a successful technique. We worked it out because while we were scooting through, I had the transducer on the electric going through. I'd spot the fish. By the time I dropped my lure, I was past the fish, and Benny would drop his lure at the back of the boat, straight down and catch fish. So there's your hints and tips for Bluerock Dam. If you're going there over the next few weeks after lockdown, that's what I'd be throwing. Good luck to everyone, and let's hope that we get to the next round of Glenbourne ABT. That would be really, really good. And I still hope that Ngami goes ahead, but yeah, it's all up to the Victorian government at this stage. So out for now. There you go. So once again, I'm just trying to get the comments up. If I leave it on mute, you won't be able to hear me, and the comments come in then, so that's all good. So got you all again. So yeah, hints and tips. That's it. I was very depressed after getting back from Bluerock and being locked down, but I was more concerned on the 2 boys from Queensland getting home, and spent a couple of hours on the phone trying to help them with their rules and regs, but they were all over it. So listen, I'm going to get Maddie on, and we're going to have a quick chat. Don't forget the best question or a good question for Maddie, and you might go in the chance to win a prize on Harry's wheel later on. So postcodes in and questions in to go in to win the prizes. So listen, I'm going to bring Mr. Langford onto the screen. G'day, champion.
Howdy. How are you?
Yeah, no, I'm good. Obviously, you're all the way back there in Queensland, in safe old Queensland, out doing whatever you want, not wearing face masks and everything else. But you had a small sort of, I don't know, snippet of what we've been putting up with for the last 130 odd days. You know, it's quite quite hard to get your head around when you've been free as long as you guys are.
Yeah, it was kind of a risky move to go down there because I, been keeping an eye on what's happening with you guys down there, and unfortunately, we got to see the wrath of Dan, but I guess he's just doing it because he has to, and that's the advice he gets. But anyway, it happened to us while we were down there, and we got called off, so we got the hell out of Dodge.
Yeah, it was a pretty quick move. I mean, you were ringing me. I thought you were only pranking me, and I was reading the messages, and I thought, you'd taken the mickey because you went totally different directions on pre-fish day. So that little snippet that I did of what we were doing up in the trees, you found something totally different at Bluerock, didn't you?
Yeah, so pretty much exactly like you said. I try and think differently to other anglers. Sometimes you sort of get an idea of what most people are going to do, so I can't try and do opposite to what everyone else does, just to try and find something different. So we went up into the trees early on and went up there, and there was like 10 or 12 boats I saw, and I just I said to Nick Brown fished with me for the morning. I just said, there's too many boats. I don't like it up here. Let's go. So we went back out into the main basin, and I kind of wanted to fish the main basin pretty much all weekend if I could, and glad I made that choice because the fishing out in the basin was awesome.
So you stumbled across them, as you said, reasonably early. I knew that there was fish up there from my pre-fish a couple of weeks ago, so I didn't want to sort of head up there and take the crowds with me, so to speak. We were coming out of the trees to head up there. For the people, there's a lot of people from Victoria that are on here sort of watching. Obviously, we're not going to be holding a comp at Bluerock. Are you willing to help out some people down around that way to try and catch some bass? How did you find them?
So I've got a fairly strict routine, especially when it comes to, say if we've got a day's pre-fish on dams that, don't regularly go to. It's not only dams, it's rivers as well. But I've got a pretty strict routine in what I do to try and break down a location quickly, and that's basically just following a depth. So start early in the morning. Generally, I'll fish really, really shallow, no matter what time of the year, because bass can do weird things. Generally, they've got a pretty stable routine on what they do through different seasons. But went out, fished surface early, so fished really shallow, fished big points and that sort of stuff. I think Nick got a blow up on top. I didn't fish top water. He fished it, and I fished a plastic, just fishing it shallow. And we fished that for a couple of hours and basically just moved 5 or 6 different spots. Still fished the same depth, but just fished 5 or 6 different spots. And usually fish will tell you pretty quickly if they're going to eat a particular lure in a particular depth. So we got to sort of mid-morning, and I think I caught a redfin and a couple of small bass, and I think Nick caught a small bass as well. And it just didn't feel right. And realistically, this time of the year, they shouldn't really be shallow. So started moving out. And like I said, at this stage, I fished a couple of shallow spots up in the trees, and then we moved back out to the basin. So it was mid-morning in the basin. So then I, instead of fishing that shallow water, then start progressively moving out. So I started moving out into 10, 15 foot, even 20 foot. And pretty quickly I started realizing on the sounder, it's a little bit funny for me now because I'm used to having the live scope and I can see everything instantly and I know exactly what's going on. But I just also want to throw out a huge shout out to Dave Lawson. He lent me his boat for the weekend. So massive shout out for Dave. I'm pretty sure he's watching here at the moment, but borrowed his boat. He runs Lowrance's, and I'm not, I use any brand as long as it works and I can see what's going on. But I could see quickly on the down scan that, I could see fish were regularly showing up in 20 foot regularly, no matter where I went. So I did 4 or 5 different moves, and then I rotated a few different lures, and then I put on what I have, an underspin first. I had a plastic, and I had a couple of bites on the underspin, nothing on the plastic. So I thought to myself, okay, they're looking for some sort of pulse or vibration. I put a TN60. What do you call it? Horse put, whatever it is.
Horse shit, yeah.
Horse shit, yeah. With a blade on it. Got a couple of bumps, but no real action. But then I've got a couple of chatterbaits that I made up. I got made up, and I started throwing them around, and then instantly realised that these fish were looking for pulse. So they were looking for heavy vibration, and that's what those chatterbaits throw out. And the one I've got's a heavy one, so I was basically dragging along the bottom and just started catching them. And we started catching them in that 20 foot, and then basically moved from one spot to the next spot. Some spots we'd catch them first cast, other spots we'd do 3 or 4 casts. Sometimes we'd drift. You know, if we had a bit of a flat, we'd drift for a bit and just see if we could replicate over the flat, but just kept constantly catching them, and knew straight away that was a pretty sort of solid deal, and especially catching decent sized fish. So regularly catching fish over that 30, nothing overly massive, because those open water fish, you know, they can be generally a little bit quieter than fish around structure. And that was the plan next. So we pretty much fished those open flats, fished that 20 foot, and it didn't matter whether it was on a point or it was on a flat out in the open. It didn't matter. As long as it was in around that 20 foot, we could get bites on the chatterbait all the time. And then Nick put on, we watched the weigh-in, the Bassmaster weigh-in, and heard Carl did really well. And then Nick had a look and found that Daniel Andrews was going to do a public announcement, and then we put that on. And I'd pre-warned, I think, yourself and Mick that something was going down. And then all of a sudden he announced that we kind of thought he was going to shut Melbourne, but he shut the whole of Victoria. And we thought if he shut down Greater Melbourne, we'd still be okay. It'd just be hard for us to fly out. But yeah, he decided to shut down the entire state of Victoria, so that meant we were screwed. So that's when I promptly picked up the trolling motor and come and found you boys, and we got the hell out of Dodge.
And we did. It was a very quick pack up, and I do have to thank Dave too. Dave organised some land down there for us. He organised some showers at the cricket club. He was absolutely awesome. Give you guys a boat and whatnot. So he's already said in the comments there that he's ordered some garments for next time for you. So that's quite funny. I'm just going to Kev's back in there. I'm going to bring Kev back on and let him ask you a few questions because, as we all know, the ambassador program we won last year, Bill won the boat, but Kevin and Declan were offered some roles, and one of the roles was to be a guest presenter on the show. So Kev's jumped on tonight to sort of co-host the show. So it's a bit of experience for Kev, and we're going to throw him in the deep end. So I'm going to bring Kev up on the screen here, and we'll see if his internet is working properly. Here we go, Kev. How you going?
How we going, boys? Yeah, good. You hear me okay? Hey,
yeah,
mate, how you doing?
Yeah.
Volume's good.
Yeah, you made it back? Very good. Very cool.
All right.
Very good.
So,
Happy New Year, everyone.
Kev, just jump on. I'm going to shut up now. I'm going to hide myself and go and get myself. Hopefully there's a Canadian club and Nikki hasn't drank all of my drinks. I'm going to go and get a Canadian club. There's my plug tonight for Canadian club sponsorship. And I'm going to leave you to ask Matty a few questions, mate. And then we'll go to the crowd questions. They're coming in now and we'll go from there. But Kev, it's all yours.
Very good. How you doing? Made it back okay?
Good, mate. Yeah, we got back all right. It was a bit of a mission, but yeah, we made it.
Very good, very good. I sort of missed all the start, so I don't know what's been said and what hasn't. But vibration was the go. The old horse poo, as Corey had called it.
I think it worked. Horse, what does he call it? Horse shit or cow shit or
Horse
whatever it is.
shit, yeah.
But so I think horse shit is a TN with blades on it, and I think cow shit's a blade with blades on it, something like that. There's
Right.
some weird
Okay.
names, but
Yeah. Technical name.
that
Cool.
worked good for him. But yeah, we found that we found the chatterbait work really good. It wasn't. It's not a conventional chatterbait. It's different to what most people would throw, but yeah, we found it would anything with deep vibration worked really well for us. And my plan for the afternoon was to go up into the trees when the sun was up, or in the middle of the day when the fish would be more inclined to look for cover. And we had a very similar plan to what Corey was going to do with vertical plastics and that sort of stuff. So I think we had a pretty solid plan, and by all reports, most people caught decent fish there. So, yeah, in previous years, it was hard to get a bag, and I think me and Nick did it. We just changed a couple of spots and did it really fast once we had something figured out. So, yeah, it was going to be a good event, but it's just a shame it sort of turned out the way it did.
Excellent. Hey, I'm going to butt in here because there was a question relevant to that. I'm just looking for it here. Somebody asked about it was Chris, so I'll bring the question up. And Chris has asked Matty, what bag size do you think would have won
it? Honestly, in the pre-fish, guys were catching, an 800 grammer was a good one. But I know that there was fish that were caught over a kilo. So it's hard to catch kilo fish. In a dam like Bluerock where it's progressively getting better and better. I've been there a couple of times. The first year, Dave Mann won it, and I think the average size was almost 600 grams or something. Dean Sylvester won it the next year with similar sort of weights, with a 600 gram average. But I honestly think this time, if you had 4 fish over the 2 days up around that kilo mark, I think you would have won or been very close to it. If you had the kilo fish and then you had a 1.2 kicker, I think you would have smashed everyone. But Bluerock's now a different dam to what it used to be. There's a lot of effort going into the stocking, and the growth rates in there are really good. So yeah, I reckon, those fish around a kilo. I know guys are going to say, oh, there's big fish in there, but you've got to realise in a tournament under high pressure, those big ones aren't inclined to bite as often as, when you're recreational fishing, when you get 20 boats on there with high noise and that sort of stuff that they're not used to. Those big ones don't bite as well as they should. But yeah, I reckon I'm going to say 8 kilos, between 6 and 8 kilos probably would have won. There's my guess, but we won't know now.
I thought that exactly that would be around the mark. We got some good ones, Benny and I, early on, and as soon as talking to you now, realise that all of our fish were at that 25-foot mark. So I don't think it mattered if you were up the dam end or down in the trees. That 25-foot mark was the mark. We were just following the contour lines at 20 feet, 25 feet, and every time we come over fish, we drop and catch a fish. So I think they were really chewing in that. A few people must have cottoned onto it because I've seen Al Mack. He was sitting on the one tree for most of the day. I think he was just protecting the zone of big ones, and he caught them fairly good.
It seemed there too.
Yeah,
I thought the same thing.
Yeah, Mickey Johnson, he caught them fairly well again, and half a dozen other people we talked to just quickly while we were at the boat ramp. They all caught fish regularly, all pre-fish as well. So I think it was really going to be a good event. Hey, Kev, while I think of it off the top of my head, you got a big announcement tonight, don't you?
Yeah, I've got some good news. We've got a new sponsor for this show. So good old Steve Duff, he's coming on board, and a bit more on that later. It's a little bit of hush-hush now till we put it together. But, Steve Duff has come on board, and he's going to donate a custom-built rod for us.
So there are a lot of people out there that know Duffy. He was a big supporter of getting ABT to Bluerock, so I thought it was appropriate. We haven't finalised the details on how to win the custom built fishing rod, but we will do that over the next week and a bit. We'll announce what's happening with that. But for Duffy to come on and donate one of those rods, it's just absolutely brilliant. We can't thank him enough. I know there's guys in the comments there that are already commenting that they want to win it. So, that's not in the comments. We'll have a competition to win that rod. It's quite a piece of kit. So, really, really well done to Duffy to support my little show, and the sponsors just keep coming in. So thanks for your work with that, because I know you've got a kit of Duff rods.
Yeah, love them. Can't get enough of them.
Yep. Matty's got the most familiar M in the world besides McDonald's on his hat, because we know Matty's a Miller freak, and I'm personally sponsored by Bone, so that doesn't matter. What we're after is, if you're after a custom built rod, hit Steve Duff up. We'll have some information and his website details and whatnot, but you will be able to win one on this show. So that's really cool stuff. Let's get to another question, I think. Enough of the Matty Langford's a legend. We don't need to hear any of them questions. Brandon, here we go. Brandon's written, what's the best bite time on the lake in your experience? Now, obviously, we're talking about Bluerock.
I reckon it would change all the time, but I honestly, I don't think there was really a bite time. There probably would be if you really nutted out that, if you fish that depth from daylight until dark, that 20-25 foot, there probably would be really accurate bite times when they bite better than others. But I think me and Nick stumbled onto it at about maybe 10 o'clock, and then we fished it for maybe till 11. It wasn't long, but we caught a lot in that 1 hour. But I think if you fished it all day, you'd probably be able to distinguish a definite bite time. But conventionally, I haven't. There's certain dams have certain characteristics, and I know, for example, Lake Sinclair, it has a brilliant bite time early in the morning and late in the evening, but it can change all the time. Glenbourne can be the same. I know Somerset and Boondoomba, they fish awesome at lunchtime. So it's every dam has its own dynamic. It's different bait species and stuff, and they all do different things. But with Bluerock on the weekend, it was sort of hard to distinguish when that bite time was, but I think it was more about the lure choice and the depth you're fishing more than anything.
Yeah, look, I totally agree that that whole depth thing. Do you think that's come from, you guide a lot on dams like Somerset and Boondoomba, where sometimes those fish just sit in that depth? And I know Jason Ehrlich was on the show last year talking about his new Spectre vibes and stuff like that, where he was really just dragging them along the bottom in that depth. Do you think that guiding helped you out with that sense that once you sort of nutted out the depth, that was it? That's where you were going to catch them?
Yeah, a lot of the time, particularly in the warmer months, there's definitely a level or a depth that they like to sit at. I've learned like I was just saying, every dam is different. I think I was talking through with Nick on the weekend. Prime example, Barumba is 10 to 15 feet. Lake Boondoomba is 20 to 25 feet. Somerset is 25 to 35 feet. They're all different, and even with those dams and the levels I just said that I've learned, they can fluctuate differently every day. Like I was at Somerset a couple of weeks ago, and as long as I had my lure in 32 feet, that was the zone all day. That's where we just could get our bites regularly. And then Boondoomba the other day, they were all in 20 feet, and you just had to make sure it was in 20 feet, just very similar to Bluerock. But you definitely I think the more that you fish, that's that time on the water thing. You notice things like that, and it just, you know, makes your fishing more productive if you got the lure in the zone where they're more active, you know.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, Kev, have you got any questions for Matty before we cross to our next video?
Yeah, sure. Just obviously chatterbaits. I've never really done a lot of freshwater fishing. Do you run a soft plastic trailer on those, or just as they are?
Oh, it just depends on which one you have. I wasn't running a trailer on mine, but my hook configuration was different. So I think genuinely, if you have a single hook on the back, you know, you can generally run a trailer if you'd like to. But to me, I think it's more about the vibration and the pulse that it's throwing out. Bass have a big lateral line. They have heightened senses. Their eyes can pick up a ridiculous amount of movement. Their lateral line, their smell, all that sort of stuff. They can pick up amazing amounts of detail under the water. So when you got a lure like a chatterbait and it's pumping, I think, Corey, we were at BP one time and we had a bass swim 20 foot watching. We were watching the I think it was the Panoptics at the time. We watched a fish swim from 20 foot away to eat a spinnerbait. So it's crazy how far that they'll swim just to have a look at your lure and eat it. So, and I think it's all got to do with that movement, the pulse, you know, that sort of thing. So,
sure.
Excellent. Hey, one quick one from the crowd. We'll bring a question up from the crowd. Nick wants to know, will you ever let Mick Johnson book a car while he's tired again?
Would you let... Oh, so someone's heard about this. I got to admit, I was asleep when this happened, so I had no choice. Would I let Mick Johnson book a hire car whilst tired again? No.
So give us a little bit of a background.
Definite no. But he's a big boy. He can make smart decisions.
So you're going to let the crowd in on the secret?
As far as the hire car goes?
Yeah.
Do you want me? I'll tell you the story of the whole trip. So basically, left the dam midday. Dane Price, and I've got to say a massive thanks to Dane, gave us a lift from Bluerock to Newcastle, so that's up past Sydney. The other thing I got to say too is thanks to all the guys that threw their hands out and said, look, do you want to help? Braden Shue, Tommy Slater, Scotty Hutchison. God, there was so many. Steve Wheeler. There's just tons of guys that threw their hand out and said, look, I'm here. Liam Crothers is another one. I'm here. We live in Sydney or wherever. Come and stay with us if you need to. So thanks to those guys. The fishing community is very, you know, they look after each other, which is awesome. But anyway, we got up to Newcastle with Dane. Dane drove 12 hours straight. We got there about 2:30 in the morning. And I woke, I think I went to sleep. I was on and off. We were watching Bassmaster a fair bit, watching Carlfish. But I woke up at one stage and Mick said, I hired a car for tomorrow. I'm like, yeah, sweet, cool. And we had a sleep and whatever else. And then when we got to Dane's, he said, this hire car, it's a little bit more expensive than I thought. So he saw on this site that this hire car was like $400. And after that, he then told me about insurance and all this other stuff. And it just, there was by the time we finished paying for it, it was nowhere near $400. So trick for young players, if a hire car place says a car's this much, probably times that by 3 or 4 and then you'll be close. So anyway, we got home. That's the main thing.
Now, I my little funny story is I sort of, you know, I was concerned that you were going to get home and you were going to have to quarantine, and you followed all the rules. You went on to all the DHH websites and you were on Queensland and Victoria. You found you had to be out of Victoria by 1 o'clock, which you did. You found that you had to be into the Gold Coast by a certain, or into Brisbane by a certain time, which you did. You got in, with the hire car. If you hadn't have done the hire car, you wouldn't have done it. You had to go and get your COVID tests and pass, and you had to stay at home until you passed your COVID test, which all of that come back negative, which was all great. But I was on the phone to you on and off, as per probably 1,000 other people, just checking how you were going. And I happened to ring you just as you were crossing the border into Queensland, and your reaction was gold. I thought you were actually waiting for a policeman to pull you up right there and then. But tell us what happened when you crossed the border into Queensland.
So yeah, like you said, I didn't drive. Mick drove the whole way because he lets me do the phone work and the normal, like the hiring and that sort of stuff. But I left that to him that night, but we'll leave that. I got on there and I started, finding out all the details of what we had to do. Like you said, and then from all the information we had down in Victoria, it was like serious and full lockdown, and this is what you got to do, get out. If you've been in a hot zone, you got to quarantine. And then I did all the research and found out that if you travel through a hot zone, you hadn't stopped there and stayed there for more than X amount of time and stayed overnight, and what you were good. And anyway, so we got back and we applied for our border permits, and that was a rigmarole because you had to send it away, because normally you could just download it, but not anymore. You had to send it away and someone would have to approve it. So we're driving up to the border and you were talking on the phone and we were waiting for like a proper big border closure. But Queensland and New South Wales borders, they're not shut. So we done all this stuff expecting there to be this, big wall of police and, the military and everyone there. But no. We just waltzed in like nothing. And, in that aspect, it sort of worries me a little bit because there would have been some people probably really doing the wrong thing. But, once we got back in, we made sure we got a COVID test straight away and all that sort of stuff. And we got negative. But, we were waiting for this big blockade that wasn't there. So, anyway, we just waltzed into Queensland and we were good.
That's it. We've got a couple of quick questions here. What have we got? Chris wants to know... no, that's the wrong one. Where was it? Just looking for here. There you go. What was the biggest bass you guys landed in pre-fish? And, so what was that? Did you catch any good ones?
Oh, nothing massive. I reckon the big ones would have been up in the trees, hiding up amongst the timber. The ones we were getting out in the open there on the chatterbaits and that 20-foot were bag fillers. They definitely weren't the comp winners. But we got fish up to, I think, 37, 38 or something. But, I know of a couple 45s. I did hear someone may have caught a 47 or something. But they're the ones, they're the kickers. They're the big ones you need. But, it would have been really hard for someone to fill a bag both days with 40-plus centimetre fish. I just don't think it would have. I reckon, if you had been fishing with a mate midweek and there was no other boats around, you could probably catch a bag of 40s and do it regularly. But I just seen with tournament pressure so many times, the big ones, they start slowing down pretty quick. I reckon. Yeah, I still say, if you had a bag around that 40 centimetre mark, you would have been sitting real pretty.
Yeah, no, excellent. Listen, I'm going to have to cross the video while I go and organise the postcode winner. So you've got about 2 minutes to put your postcodes in. I'll hide you guys in the green room, grab yourself a drink, have a leak, or do whatever you got to do, and I'll bring you back up in a minute. So there's Maddie and Kev gone, and let's go here. What video? So, as I said, with the Yellowcraft Brand Ambassadors Program last year, the top 10 come through, and one of them was my son. He obviously couldn't win it. So, he's helping out on the show, being my four drive expert. We're going to do some videos with him throughout the year, and for the first 2 weeks, he's got his video in. So, I'm just going to play this video for you. It only goes for a couple of minutes, and I'll be back with the winner of the postcode.
main reasons for deflating your tyres is to improve your tyre performance, limit the strain on your car and tyres, improve the traction by widening the spread of the tread, reducing your chances of getting bogged, all while providing a comfier ride. Most commonly, tyres are deflated for sand, but it is also important when going mud, on corrugations or rocky tracks. Easiest way is using a tyre deflator, although there are other methods. I found this to be the quickest and most efficient. But if you're in a pinch, you can get away with a small stick and a tyre pressure gauge. Sand, I'd start at about 18 psi and work your way down if you need to. Corrugations, roughly 30 psi. And if you're on a slow rocky track, you can go as low as 14. Step 1. Take off the cap and screw on the tyre deflator. Step 2. Unscrew the tyre valve to maximise the air being released. Step 3. Check the pressures to make sure you get the required PSI. Step 4. Once the desired PSI is reached, screw the tyre valve back into place and make sure you screw it in nice and tight, as this keeps all the air in. Step 5. Once you've made sure that your valve is in properly, unscrew the tyre deflator and screw the cap back on. Don't forget, before travelling long distances on the road, make sure you air up your tyres so you don't roll the tyre off the rim. The tyres aren't meant to be on the road at such a low PSI. You can do this by buying yourself an air compressor. After all these steps, you're finally ready to hit the tracks. Go out and have some fun.
There we go, and hopefully I have volume straight up. So we were able to select the postcode winner. It's much easier to do this when there's a video playing, so thanks, Connor. Connor's Adventures 98 on Instagram and Facebook. If you want to follow him, those videos will be released on there as well. So we've picked a name that I can't actually pronounce. So the postcode winner, we've got some Fish Arrow plastics. We've got some Z-Mans in the Slim Swims. We've got some Gulps in the Crabs, and we've also got some crappy sliders. So that is the postcode prize for the night, and that is going to Ash and Jamie Covarobo, I think it is. So Ash and Jamie, obviously it's a shared account. So if you can send me a personal message to Koreatown Fishing with your address, we will post those postcode prize out to you. We still have Harry's Wheel. So as you can see, we've got some massive prizes on Harry's Wheel as well for later on, and they come from the questions. I'm going to throw some more questions into Maddie and Kev, and we'll see how we go. So I'll bring them back on the screen and making sure that we knock the nerves out of Kev as well. It's always very hard to sit there in the background and have somebody talk all over the top of you. Good day, gentlemen. Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Yep. All right. All good. So we've got some further questions in there. This one from Joel, I'll bring this one up. Can you see Bluerock growing into a great bass fishery like the obviously Northern Dam, Sinclair and Glenbourne, etc.? We'll start with you, Kev. What are your thoughts on Bluerock being your first, we went over and you come over for a pre-fish. Do you see it turning into one of the dams like Sinclair and Glenbourne?
I can't see why not. Obviously, the stocking's in there. It's just going to get better and better as obviously more fish gets added to the range. And yeah, look, it's still not heavily bat fished from what I see. So yeah, I can't see no reason why it couldn't.
Yeah, Matty, what about yourself? Do you see it sort of in years to come rivaling your Sinclairs and Glenbournes?
Yeah, I totally think so. Yeah. I've just noticed the couple of times that I fished it, there's been 4 big tournaments on it. And like I was saying, I think Dave Welfare won the first one, Dave Mann the second, Dean the third. But those 3 tournaments, the previous 3 to this one, the fishing was very inconsistent. There was not a lot of big fish. This time around was totally different. You can really see that the stocking's being consistent. You can see that the fish are, the year classes are all there. So, there's 40 plus centimetre fish. I'm pretty sure there's going to be a 50 plus in there somewhere. There's high 40s, 40s, mid 30s, 30s, and then all the way down to little. So they've been stocking it consistently and in good numbers. So I reckon give it a couple more years and it's going to be a really good one. There's a couple of really good ones in Victoria that are going to shine in the next 4 or 5 years, I reckon.
Yeah, I know Morgo. I think I read it on a comment on somebody else's post. Might have even been Nick Brown's post where he joked about a double header going Nagambie Bluerock. I thought really long and hard about that. I'd love to see Nagambie Bluerock, Sinclair Glenbourne, and say a Boondooma Kenya double header series.
Is it Nagambie?
Nagambie, not Nagambie. What do we call him?
Glen Maggie.
Glen Maggie, that's the one. I've got Nagambie on my head. Glen Maggie, Maggie Bluerock. You don't want to go to Nagambie, no bass in there.
No. Glen Maggie's got some crackers in it already. So yeah, it'll be interesting.
It's a hidden little gem down there. So, another question about ABT, Jake Hill. Will this scare ABT away from Bluerock for the next season, do you think?
I don't think so. I think as long as we can have events running, I don't see any problem as long as we keep Dan the man away from making all the decisions. I don't see why not.
Look, I honestly think if everyone brings a tennis racket next year and he has it at the same time, we'll be fine.
Yeah, that's it. Women's AFL, one of the two.
Yeah.
What do you think, Matty? I mean, it's a big hit in the pocket for Morgo.
Yeah, I think it's risky. It was always risky, but I think there was a higher percentage chance of us fishing it this time around than last year, obviously, but it's still early days yet. So I would think that he's probably going to do something again next year. I hope so because I'll be there. It doesn't matter where they are, we'll go to them. But it was just risky this year, but that's just COVID for you, I suppose.
Yeah, I think to answer Jake's question, in a COVID-free world, we would definitely, Morgo can run double headers with Gippsland and, be around the area from Meetung and stuff like that. So, he can halve his expense because he's already coming down for another comp and stuff like that. So I think it's not totally ruled out yet, but it all will depend more on COVID than anything else. So great question, Jake. Let's look for a couple. You got any questions for Matty? Kev?
Don't know, not really. You've sort of put me on the spot there.
That's my job.
Yeah. That's it. I guess with Victoria having a crazy weather as we have, so we went from a day of 35, I think, during that week. I guess it's a lot more constant weather up where you are in Queensland. Does that make it harder sort of working out which banks to hit first or what areas to hit first in those situations? I've
got a good answer to this. Years ago it did, yeah, definitely, because there was one day up there, it was 40 degrees. It was hot as anything. And then that same day, it was like 17 degrees or something. It was just it was a really phenomenal weather change that I'd never seen before. And the fishing did die off a little bit, but not as bad as it would have done back in Queensland here. The one guy that I did see stress about it more than anything was from Queensland, and Mick Johnson was freaking out. He was like, the water temperature is going to drop like 6 degrees over the few days because it's going to, we're going to be there and it's going to be 20 degrees and then all of a sudden it's going to be at 9 degrees, and he was freaking out. And I've noticed that it doesn't really affect them as badly because I think they're used to it.
Right.
Whereas if that had to happen in Queensland, we get a few, if we get a few degree change, especially a dropping temp, Queensland bass just go on holidays for a while. They don't like it. They hate it.
They do. Shut up shop. That was a good question. Well done out of the blue. Good job. All right. There's another question in here from Daniel Edwards. So Daniel says, do the rods really make a difference with any fish, considering you have a rod worth $150 or $250? Do you want to explain? I suppose I say to everyone, and I have for over 12 months now on this show, buy the best you can possibly afford. Don't overspend. But, I mean, there is a big difference between, say that rod that Duffy's going to build and buying something off the BCF shelf for $50. I mean, talk through some of the differences there, Matty.
Yeah, that is a good question, that one. But I always go back, and I get asked this on charters all the time. Buy a rod, obviously, what you just said. Buy a rod that you can afford, and that feels good in your hand and you're going to get used to and practice with. I know when I started, I had a bait caster and a spin rod. I bought the spin rod from an op shop. It was like, I think it was $20, or it was a Berkeley drop shot spin rod. And it was cheap as, and then I bought I think it was a Shimano T-Curve spin. No, it was a Shimano T-Curve bait caster, and I had those two rods for 5 or 6 years, and I didn't have any others. That was my two, and they weren't expensive rods. I really learned how to fish and how to cast with them. It's kind of like a car. Buy a cheap car early on, learn how to drive it before you buy something better. But yeah, I just found that learning how to use those rods and how to respect them and take care of them, but then when you do get a chance, especially if you come in and do these tournaments, ask anyone, whether it's another co-angler or another pro, just ask if you can put one of their fishing rods in their hand and just get a feel for it, because there is some high-end rods that are purpose-built specifically for bass fishing and for specific lures and specific techniques. That's why those more expensive rods can be expensive. Those higher end rods can be more expensive because they're purpose built. Some are purpose built to have really sensitive tips and strong low down strength. There's so many variables in a rod. It's a bit of a science, and for these rod builders like Ian Miller and Duffy and those guys, they're putting a lot of effort into their builds, and they're worth a lot of money, some of these rods. So I think it's worth buying something early on that you can afford and learn with, and then later on, if you want to, go up to something a little bit more expensive if you can afford it. If not, it's not the end of the world, because you can just as easily win a tournament on a $20 rod than a $700 rod. You just got to know how to use it and what it can do, and then if you know your rod inside out, you're set.
Yep. No, that's an excellent question. Thanks, Daniel. I'm going to take the time here to call Harry out to his wheel. So, Harry, if you can go out to your wheel, I'm just going to go and get Harry organised. I was going to play a video here for some more hints and tips, but I think I'll carry that video over for next week. Kev, I'll leave you to talk with Matty and the what was the question I was going to bring up for him? Here it is here. Right, so I'm going to get rid of myself off the screen and do this. The question is, if you could go back when you started fishing competitions, what advice would you give yourself? I am going to go and get Harry organised on the wheel. All right, you and Kev can chat away.
Very good. I guess my main one was I wish I'd started it a lot earlier. I think there's that whole thing of, am I good enough? Should I be doing this? The amount that you can learn from the guys that you're with, especially the ABT style of tournaments, the boating side of things. I personally haven't done any of the boats, but I've done a few of the Hobie rounds so far. So hopefully this year I get to do some ABTs. But if I went back to myself at a younger age, I'd definitely say start doing that stuff earlier. You learn a bucket load very quickly. Look at what Langers does on his boat. Literally, it's that's his job, and you can learn just the same sort of thing, just turning up and competing in a comp and being a non-boater with him.
Yeah, and to add to that too, we talked about on the weekend. If you go in as a co-angler in one of these tournaments, or it doesn't matter what tournament, it's the cheapest charter you'll ever have, and you'll learn tons and tons and tons from the guys you fish with. You fish with 2 different guys over 2 days, and it costs you $150. It's the cheapest charter you'll ever have. So, to answer that question, I think the biggest advice would be to trust. This for me is trust your gut. I think, once you develop a knowledge and have a bit of an understanding of what's going on in the water, trust your instincts, because so many times in the past, early on, I would literally be sick in the stomach knowing that I'm doing the wrong thing, but I'm so stubborn I'm not going to change. Now, the second I think something's wrong, or the second I think of something, I do it instantly. I don't sit there for an extra half an hour or an extra 2 hours like I used to, and that killed me so many times. It's doing it instantly. And then my Carl always used to say to me when we talk about it and stuff too, but my dad specifically, I remember, I think I was telling Mick or Corey, I can't remember, on the weekend, it might have been Nick, but he used to be watching me. Sometimes he'd just come out and watch me fish, and he'd say to me sometimes, "What are you doing?" And I'd turn around and go, I'd snap out and I go, "Oh, I'm just trying to catch a fish." He goes, "You've been doing that for half an hour and you haven't got a bite. Why are you still doing it?" So that's what I mean. Do as soon as you have a gut instinct on something, go and try it, because whatever you're doing at the time is not working. Just go and dismiss it straight away and just go and do something different. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. And just to add to that, there's nothing worse than sort of getting back, watching the weigh in, and they get up and say, I caught on this, and you had it hanging on your hook all weekend thinking, oh, yeah, I should throw that, and you didn't. So going with your gut is, and not being pig-headed is something that you really, really should do. I think, we've tried to keep the shows to around the hour mark this year. One of the feedbacks I got was we were going too late. So we're nearly on the hour, and we haven't even got to Harry's wheel. So I'm going to put you guys in the green room. I'm going to cross to Harry, and then we'll come back and close off, have a little bit of chat to both of you guys. It's been an hour. It's gone so quick. So I'll put you guys in the green room, and I will have a chat to Harry. So let me find Harry in the stream. Are you there, Harry?
Oh, hi.
Oh, there he is. Hang on. I've got to get you right. There you go. G'day, mate. How you going?
I'm going good.
We're going good. That's good to hear. I've picked somebody for the prize, and the wheel is going to be spun for, I think it's Daniel Edwards, asked the question about the fishing rod prices. So listen to Harry. Daniel is going to obviously want you to spin him a prize. So let's do your thing.
Okay, yeah, I think I should give it a spin. And we got Wilson.
Who have we got?
We got Wilson.
So Wilson, it's come up on Wilson. So what has Daniel won, mate?
You get this cool hat and this, what's it called, stubby collar?
Stubby cooler, that's it. So you've got a Team Venom hat and a stubby cooler donated by Wilson. So check them out if you're on the web. Check out Wilson, and they do some great Australian products. So Daniel, you send us a personal message with your details, and we will post that out to you. Now, Harry, if anyone wants to sponsor your board, what do they have to do?
Give your personal message on Facebook. How is my guitar skills?
Your guitar skills were all right if you're in a rock band, mate. Thank you very much for your time tonight. You've gone off tap tonight. So there you go, nearly on the first go. Love your work. We've got to go because we are at the hour mark. You've been able to play a trick online. So Daniel was the winner of the Wilson prize. So thanks, mate. We shall talk to you later on.
Okay, bye-bye.
Right, there we go. He's mad. He's out of there, and we're all good. I'll bring the boys back. We'll finish off. Harry's loving his little segment. Let's just bring everyone back up and make sure that I've got them unmuted. All right, gentlemen. Kev, anything you'd love to see that in 20 years' time, wouldn't you?
Yeah, a bit of twirling, a bit going on. Yeah, yep, definitely.
He's definitely
goal.
We said to him, step it up a little bit, get a little bit wild, and I'm in a totally different room. I wasn't expecting that. He's totally blown me away with that one.
Where does he get all his hair from?
Definitely not my side of the phone. Actually, believe it or not, Matty, he's got exactly the same hair I did at his age. My nickname my father gave me when I was younger was Snow. I've got photos of hair exactly like Harry. So, poor bastard's going to be bald later on in life. I can see that. All right. Let's just see if there's any last quick questions that have gone in. So, go over Ash and Jamie, or the account Ash and Jamie. They've already messaged me. Won the postcode prize. That's the plastics. And the Venom hat and stubby cooler from Wilson goes to Daniel Edwards for the fishing rod photo. Listen, what have we got? Any last questions? I don't want to be bald. Harry's put in there. That's all good. Thanks for all your questions again tonight, everyone. Kev, thank you for your time. I know you logged in late. We're going to have a little bit of a chat earlier on. But thanks for your time. Declan was supposed to be on tonight. We got smashed with COVID. He's in finance. So, obviously everyone wanted to put their loans on hold and stuff like that. So he got smashed with that. So you got called in at the last minute. You're at your parents-in-law's place, hidden in the back room. I won't keep you too long because you should go and be social. But, Matty, I'm glad you got home okay. It's always a pleasure to have you on. You're a wealth of knowledge. Don't forget, if you're not following Matthew Langford on his Facebook page, it is Matthew Langford Fishing Australia. Is that right? No?
It's Matthew Langford Australian Fishing. Not Australia, though.
I've got them back to front. Or, they can check you out for your charters on
Australian Freshwater Fishing Charters on Facebook or www.australianfreshwaterfishing.com.
That's it. Or give you a call. I'll put his number all over the internet later on so everyone can ring him. No way. Look, thank you very much, guys. There's no questions coming in. We're all good. We're all done. I will talk to you guys off air as soon as I close this up. But thanks, everyone, for watching. Next week, I will be doing more interviews. Hopefully, if we get out of lockdown, I'm going over to Epilogue to the Central Victorian Lure Casters comp. And then we'll have a couple of weeks break from comps. And I think it's up to Glenbourne or something like that. So looking forward to everything that's going on. Don't forget to check my website out, which is corriesdamfishing.com, all the W's. And make sure that if you haven't got your name down for Nagambie, put it down because it's happening in a couple of weeks' time if Dan lets us out as well. We've got shit happening everywhere. I'm going. I'm out. See you later.